Morning.
Morning, Ted. Good morning, Judgetown. Good morning,
morning.
everybody.
Morning.
Morning, Kat.
Good morning.
I'm virtually present. I'm sorry. I'm in an arbitration, but I'll be there. I'm here.
We appreciate your virtual presence.
Good morning, everybody.
Better.
Good to go. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning, January 19th. What is historically will be known as the day after the opening. If those of you who were there and survived, congratulations. Happy New Year. Here we are, our first meeting for 2023. I would love to say that we have a short agenda today, but we have a historical year ahead of us. So we're going to start it off with talking a lot about what we hope to happen, what we want to do, and just share and learn from where you folks are as we begin this year. We got our annual report as well as our strategic 12-month plan to talk about. And so we'll call this meeting to order at this time. I have Martha and Ron here with me live, and Christian, and I see Ted and Mike on the Zoom. So all the commissioners are accounted for at this time. And as we begin this meeting, commissioners, can you look at your minutes that were sent to you by Christian for December 15th, 2022, and let's take a quick look at it if you had reviewed it earlier, if you have any amendments or edits, and if not, I'll take a motion to accept the minutes into the record.
So moved, Mark.
Second.
It has been moved by Mike and seconded by Martha that the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission minute meetings for January 15th be accepted at this time. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry.
All opposed, say same. Okay, that motion has passed. We're moving to item number 4 on our agenda, everybody. Welcome again to the public who are present here. I ask that if you can digitally raise your hand, and for those who I can see raise your hand, we will open up the item for public testimony on all our agenda items, and I remind you to be conscious of your time, a minute or two, and we can move forward to the next one. Kat, you want to start off a new year?
Unmute yourself.
Can't read lips. Aloha, everyone. I just wanted to thank the commission for being so open with the public. That annual report was absolutely amazing. And for anybody who didn't know what the commission did, that just revealed all. And it was great. And I really appreciate the work of the commission. That's all.
Thank you, Kat.
Good job, Mark. Bob Nurse.
Bob?
Let me second what Kat said. I think your annual report is spectacular. I think you did a great job. Kristen did a great job in writing it. And it's just phenomenal. With regard to the item on the agenda, the new jail, excuse me, I hope during that discussion, someone will ask Tommy Johnson, the director, whether the $15 million that was deleted from the executive budget last year is in this year's budget. So we will all know directly whether the department is seeking that $15 million to do an RFP for a public-private partnership or not. I think that's critically important to so many of us who are concerned about the new jail, and I hope that question will be answered today. But once again, it was a great year. You did some great work, and the annual report is terrific, so congratulations.
Thank you, Bob. I can't see the second screen. Is there any, George, if you see hands, let me know. I'm not seeing any other hands. If not, I'm going to move forward to the next item on the agenda. Just searching. If you let me see.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna move to item 5, the Oversight Coordinator Report.
Grievance process.
It's the
Sorry,
grievance
I'm
process.
looking at the minutes.
Grievance process.
Grievance process.
Okay, so during the last meeting, I kind of talked about how I had a lot of concerns at HCCC because after talking to people in custody and also staff, I had learned that there was not a grievance coordinator at the facility. After looking into this more, I found out that there are not physical grievance coordinators at any of the facilities except for Halava. So at Halava, they have 3 staff and they are in charge of investigating all grievances from across all facilities. So I have many concerns, as you can imagine. The grievance process, for those of you who don't know, it's the complaint system that people in custody use to submit. And I mean, it can be a wide range, but any type of complaint they may have. And the purpose of this is it's a 3-step process so that the issues can be resolved at the facility level as quickly as possible, but it doesn't have to go to the next levels moving forward. The next levels moving forward either go to the warden or potentially downtown, but it's structured where it's meant to hit the facility first. If it can't be handled there, then it moves up. So the fact that there aren't grievance coordinators at the facilities causes a few issues. Number one, it makes it a lot harder to just resolve issues at hand, especially, I don't want to say smaller level issues, but issues that would be very easy to handle if you could just walk across the hall and talk to another staff member, like mail, for example. If you can talk to the mail officer, you know, it can handle it very, very quickly. The other part of it is that it adds a lot of time for responses because now instead of just handling it once you hear about it, you have to take the grievance, mail it to Halava, et cetera, et cetera. So the amount of time that it takes to process these grievances really increase. In addition to all of that, having 3 staff members for all 8 facilities, not including Saguaro, obviously, that's a lot of work for them, quite a bit. So I went and I met with the staff. I talked with them for a while. Very, very passionate individuals. I really enjoyed our conversation, but I could tell that they were concerned with the process as well, the more that they described it to me. So I'm hoping to work with Tommy to try to resolve this issue. I know that Tommy did put in a request for additional grievance officers. I know that's one of the big problems is that they have such a shortage of staff. It's just difficult to have grievance staff in each facility. But my concern is that grievances are a huge, huge tool for preventing riots and for preventing just general intensity, I think, in the facility. So that's an issue I wanted to update you all on because I know we talked about it last time. I will continue to look into this and we'll continue to update the commission.
Kristen, before you move on, I have a question. Do you know what kind of data the department keeps as regards grievances, number of grievances from what facility, what the subject matter is, how many were resolved, how many resolved on time, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all the grievance information is kept in offender track, which is what I have access to. So the staff did run through the system to show me. It is not the most user-friendly system. And as far as tracking how long a grievance takes, you would have to, there's no dashboard that shows you, like, if you wanted to look at system level and wanted to look at everything in one space, like there's no dashboard to do that. You would have to pull each grievance individually to see the length of time it took to respond. Now, what they do have a dashboard for is tracking the types of grievances that they receive. But again, it's not the most user-friendly system. And so if I were to pull all the grievance numbers, I would still want to go through and track, like double check basically individually to make sure that we captured them all and captured them all accurately to make sure that we have those correct descriptions of types of grievances. So I don't know if that quite answered your question. It's a
Well,
bit.
no, I just wanted to, the data would give a sense of how well the system is working, or maybe it's not working. You know, for example, my understanding is that there should be a locked box that's accessible in each facility, in which inmate can drop his or her grievance. That the box is accessible only to select parties, and it's supposed to be checked every day. So it seems that somebody, whoever picks up the grievances every day, should be recording date and time and name of the inmate and a grievance number. And that would start the record as to how long it takes to actually get a response to the grievance. So
Yeah.
anyway, I understand the staffing issues, but I'm just trying to see what the status is of the system, and what it will take to build up the data that we need to understand whether it's working or not.
I definitely agree with that. I think one of my biggest concerns is that when I was first looking into this grievance system, I noticed that there were very few grievances coming from XIII, which was a little shocking to me given the conditions there. And so when I talked to people in custody, what they were telling me was that they had filed grievances, they went completely unanswered, unresolved. So they just all gave up on this, like they just stopped filing grievances. So now, since that time, so within the past month, XIII does have a specific officer who's now been trained on the grievance system, who is the designated officer to go through each of those grievance boxes, take the grievances and send it to the staff at Halava. So there are some improvements there that have already occurred. I don't think it's quite where it needs to be, but I do appreciate that they at least found a designated staff member to handle that. But as far as what you're talking about, Ted, I'm gonna have to look into that. I don't know how, my understanding is that the tracking begins when it hits Halava, but I'm not positive about that. So let me look into that.
Thank you.
This grievance officer at XIII, I get the impression they don't have any power to resolve grievances, they just pass them on.
Correct.
And the whole idea of a grievance system is to resolve issues at the lowest level possible and as soon as possible. And this is not helping at all
Correct.
to do that. Another reason you need to have a dashboard that tells you, breaks down the data, you may be having from Waiava a lot of complaints about food. And because it's the one that's having the most complaints about food, then the department knows they need to focus some attention on food services at that particular facility. It's not just one grievance, it's multiple grievances.
The grievances are an administrative tool to look at whether or not the systems are working within the correctional environment. So as Martha dictated about the food grievances, you can also get the same grievances into look at what's happening in your medical unit, in your mental health units, in your hiring and firing of work lines. There's so many ways that you can use the grievance system to improve the environment that you're in. Not all grievances are frivolous. Some of them are based on honest foundation, honest remarks, and it's to help you improve the systems for the population that dwells there and the workers, so that you can provide that safe environment that you're saying you're providing.
And with this information, then the warden also has more information to how they need to direct their attention at their own facility.
Right.
So it is imperative that at a higher level that the grievances are managed for the department, as because many of those grievances will actually be answered at the departmental level, but we want to handle it at the facility level first. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how crucial that system is.
And it adds a lot of staff time too, because even when I was talking to the grievance staff at Halava, what I explained to them is that what I like to do is exactly what you said, Martha. I like to pull all the numbers to see where are the hot topic issues, like what is happening in these facilities. So if I can't do that, wardens definitely can't do that. And yeah, it's just concerning. In addition to all that, when we have our investigative processes solidified, a part of that will be that people will be required to at least start the grievance process before coming to us. And the reason for that is to give the facility a chance to address the issue before bringing it to us, give the department a chance. And in addition to that, we can also see how the department responded, what happened, are they following the policies and procedures that exist? So this is something that is very high on my radar, and I will have updates soon.
And
I
if
also want to make another comment about this, that the ombudsman's office, when there's grievance or complaints that come in from correctional facilities, if they have not gone through the proper internal processes, the ombudsman will instruct the inmate, you need to go through your own grievance process first. And if that doesn't get resolved that way, then we will start looking into it. So it also heeds what the ombudsman can do.
grievances are also a telltale on case management,
Mhm.
classification system,
Mhm.
as well as time. The amount of time that they say they were doing, but they think they're doing more, or they're doing less, or even the parole on the reentry process. So it's all very crucial information that is needed in order to make policy and system improvement.
And also,
Mark?
Yes, Mike.
Mark? For me, at the court system, we found out through grievances, the tone at the top. And by reading the grievances, you can get the vibration of what's really going on. And it's part of, I think it's part of free speech. So I really encourage we can learn a lot about the culture of the facility. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we have these different facilities, and there's different tones and different wardens. So I really appreciate what I'm hearing today. And I'm interested in what's the tone at the top. If people write it down, and I know they're taking a risk and they don't want to get retaliated against, but it's part of free speech. Thank you.
So we're going to do a follow-up on the next meeting on the information that we are able to pull off of the offender track. Continue to work on that access.
One more thing, Mick Kaufman is joining us in this meeting. Unfortunately, Tommy could not attend today. And so Mick, if there's any way that you folks need help from us in getting like those positions, please let us know. We'd be willing to testify on your behalf at the legislature in supporting these requests.
Thank you, Martha, and good morning to everybody. If I can just add a bit to the grievance process. It is a three-step process. The first step is usually handled by the section itself from where the grievance had come from, or the supervisor of that section. The second step grievance, if the offender does not feel that the response was adequate or addressed his concerns, that second step will go to the warden. And then, of course, the third step, if the offender wants to go to a third step because they feel that their issues have not been addressed, that'll come to the division level to be answered. So there is a process in which there are lower levels that can handle the grievance, review, investigate, and then determine the appropriate response. The system seems to work, but I would agree that we are attempting to increase the staff, which is difficult. And Martha, yes, thank you for offering that up. Normally what occurs is uniformed officers have to be pulled offline to do a function that typically is not really allocated to the uniform staff. But we do because we need the process to at least show some assistance to the offenders when they have no other process to be able to lean on or anybody to go to. So we're working to make it a better system. I have seen many grievances throughout my years. Some are very valid, some are not. But it does bring some accountability to the system, and it gives an offender another way of trying to address issues for themselves while they're doing time.
And
So,
also, we want to prevent lawsuits, and this is one of the ways by resolving
Yeah.
issues at the lowest level possible.
yeah, I mean, and in most cases, I think a lot of them can be if someone will just take the time to listen and then
And do
try to
it.
resolve the problem.
So Kristen may ask for a follow-up, Mick, at the next meeting, okay?
That's fine. Kristen, you can, send out your questions or whatever you're interested in, and then we'll do our best to respond to that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mick.
No, I appreciate that, Mick. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let's look at item 6 now on our agenda with the state ID.
So I asked to put the state IDs on here. This is another issue that has come up again and again, and recently Civil Beat did an article about drug treatment for drug offenders that are at Kauai Community Correctional Center. And in that article, it talks once again about people being released without IDs. The law requires they have IDs, but the department is dependent upon the Department of Transportation to coordinate and issue those IDs. And it's my understanding that Tommy Johnson has dedicated a lot of time to try and get this resolved. It has not been resolved. And it is the Department of Transportation, as my understanding is really that's what is at fault. And I believe that we should be writing a letter to the governor asking that this issue be resolved. We do need to talk to Tommy and ensure that what I've heard in the past is correct, but we want to assist in getting this resolved, and the department appears that they cannot do it themselves.
I think it should be a great executive push if we can get that letter out. Many of those IDs are needed by those who eventually, when you talk about reentry and the need for the
Yeah.
IDs, you're also looking at homelessness. Yeah, and that they can't get what they need to get if they don't have that ID prior to them being released.
I mean, it
So,
sounds like it's something so simple, but it's not that simple. And from previous reports, I can't fault the department because they can't do it alone. Now, perhaps there could have been a bigger push with Max of going to the governor at that time. It hasn't happened, but then I want us to write to the governor and say, we really need to have this resolved. Okay.
okay. Over. Kristen?
Right.
Been up?
Well, this I'll bring up. On the agenda, we have the current term of the Oversight Coordinator. And Kristen, do you have your letter?
Yes.
Kristen was officially appointed by the governor on April 4th of 2022. And it said that your term will expire November 30th. She began working for us July 11th. According to the law, she shall serve a 2-year term. Well, that is not a 2-year term. So there's another thing we need to write to the governor and ask to have this resolved. Her term really should be until June 30th of 2024, which would be 2 years from the time that she started serving. If you reported to the paroling authority like Mike was, they didn't start counting his term until he actually started sitting on the parole board, not when we were having interviews or not when we were advertising for parole members. So I am recommending that we write a letter to the governor to resolve this issue and move the date to June 30th of 2024. Yeah.
Martha, was that a motion or?
No, I'm
No,
just
do we-
recommending that we
I
do
mean, if
it.
anybody has anything to
Do-
say against it, if not, we're just gonna go ahead and submit it, Ted. Is that okay with you?
I'm good with both. I just wanted to make sure that if we need an official action, we take the official action.
Yeah, and that, I'm not that good at Robert's Rules of Order. What do you think? Should we do it as a motion for both these past things, the grievance and the state ID? I mean, I'm sorry, the ID, state ID and the current term of the coordinator?
Okay, I so move for both.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's been, okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Okay, so what we just voted on, for those of you, is 2 letters of recommendations. The first letter to the governor to speak on behalf of encouraging the
commission.
process of getting state IDs for our offenders when they return to the community. And our second is to extend our oversight coordinator's term of expiration, right?
Mhm.
To November 30th, June of 2024. Okay, that's what you voted on. Okay, thank you. Now, it's amazing that we're talking about extending or getting the right term down for our oversight coordinator. Just so you folks know, we're on our, believe it or not, 23 of July makes almost 4 years the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission has been in existence, right?
This is our
21,
third
22,
anniversary of meeting.
Yeah,
This meeting is our third
third
anniversary.
anniversary. Oh, it's from 20, yeah, but the law was in 2019. So
Yeah, but
some
the
of
funding
us,
was only for half year. So-
some of us commissioners had to be, or in the process of looking at our appointments.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so I can say that the Office of Hawaiian Affairs has appointed me for another 3 years.
3 or 4 years.
Whatever my term was supposed to be. They wrote the letter. Yeah.
When we were appointed, and we were not privy to this, we were appointed to staggered terms. And I think that it was Ron who was the first one who was notified by the CJ that his appointment, which was had been a year or year and a half or something, had expired and he was reappointed by the judiciary. So really Ron's term will not exceed 6 years. My term will not exceed 6 years. I was reappointed in June by the Speaker of the House to another 4 years. So I'd already served 2.5 years. And now I have another 4 years. I presume your letter says
Yes.
4 years in it. So only one of us are going to serve a total of 8 years. The rest of us are staggered, ranging from 5 years, I think, until 8 years.
And then Ted or Mike, are you aware of your appointments?
Yes.
I was reappointed, I think it was sometime in 2022, but I forget the term. I gotta go dig up the letter. Kristen's been asking me and I always forget to these details. Sorry about that.
Mike?
Yeah, I was appointed by the President of the Senate, and I think it comes up, I think I sent it to Kristen, but it comes up in 2023. And if I get reappointed, I'm glad to serve.
Okay, just so we be transparent to everybody in the meeting here, that, you know, that's the status of our appointments right now.
Okay.
So, okay,
I'll double check all
Yeah.
that.
thank you. Now we're ready for your report.
Okay. All right. Happy January, everyone. Now we're shifting into the Oversight Coordinator Report. This is a report that I publish on a monthly basis covering any and all actions that are taken by me or the Commission. So I do want to start off, unfortunately, by announcing an in-custody death. On Sunday, December 25th, 2022, at 8:50 p.m., medical staff at Halava Correctional Facility found a person in custody, male, 87 years old, unresponsive, with no pulse, within the infirmary. Medical staff did administer CPR and called 911. This individual was pronounced deceased at approximately 10:02 p.m. And on a side note, this report is available on our website if you want to pull it up and follow along. I'm just going to briefly run through it. Moving forward, I do have a small update regarding the EMR. So the electronic medical record has been down since June 2022, which is a crisis for many reasons. We've talked about this, I think, almost every month since learning about it. The Commission did send a letter to the Department of Public Safety on December 30th, 2022, expressing that if the EMR cannot be fixed, the Commission recommends immediate purchase and implementation of a new medical record system. Additionally, the Commission has requested to be kept up to date and informed on all matters related to the EMR, including specific plans and timelines for this issue to be resolved. On January 6, 2023, Director Tommy Johnson did respond. He shares the Commission's concerns, and he has been working very diligently with the current vendor. That letter that he sent is attached to the oversight coordinator report, so you can take a look. But basically what it comes down to is that, and if Mick wants to jump in and talk about this a little more, I think what it comes down to is that they're really struggling with the vendor to get quick responses, to get quick fixes. Now, Tommy is also looking into getting a new system. I know that that is something that's a part of his budget too, which the commission, I have no doubt, will support and testify upon. But it's tough. They're working on a server upgrade project. They're testing the environment. They're moving everything to the cloud. You know, again, the letter is attached, so you guys can take a look, but it's quite complicated, especially when trying to finish the final migration, which is currently in progress. So I am not thrilled with this update because, I mean, obviously it doesn't immediately fix the issue. Medical staff are still working on a pen and paper system. It's extremely difficult to keep track of people's health, current medications, et cetera, but I do appreciate Tommy sending the updates and continuing to update the commission. I did want to pause for a second in case commissioners had any comments or thoughts on that. You saw the response. Okay. All right.
My
So-
brain may not be working as well as it should today.
Any response on Mike and Ted?
Yeah, I have a, so after a while, you know, well, the efforts may be great, you know, and you keep receiving in progress, meaning there's no end date or expected date. Why can't public safety go to the Attorney General's office and see what our legal remedies are? Because it seems like the vendor is putting it off and off and off. And do we have any legal remedies under the contract with the vendor?
That might be
That's a good
a
question.
big question.
Unfortunately, our deputy AG is not with us today.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a follow-up question.
I'm
Yeah.
here.
Oh, hi Candice. Did you hear that? Did you hear
well,
Judge
Candace
Ibarra?
is our AG, though she's not the department's AG.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, that's right.
Yeah.
No, that's okay, Candice, sorry.
Okay, bye.
I'm out of here.
We'll pose that question.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so moving forward, actions taken, facility tours. As I briefly talked about, I did go to Halava. This was not necessarily a facility tour. This was specifically to have that grievance meeting that occurred on December 28th. I also went to HCCC on December 29th, and that should say January 12th. I'll fix that. For the update on the justice involved homelessness intergovernmental collaboration, I don't have too much of an update right now. I think the big thing is that Going Home Hawaii has really taken the initiative to develop a strategy to create those collaborative meetings. And those collaborative meetings are going to be happening on a monthly basis leading up to the Reentry Housing Summit in April of 2023. I'm really excited about this. I am personally a part of the steering committee, which I really appreciate Going Home Hawaii inviting me to be a part of. And so we will continue to be a strong voice in this. And for those of you who may not remember, the reason why all of this came up is because Going Home Hawaii is pretty focused on the Big Island. HCCC, which is, in my opinion, the worst facility, is in Hilo on the Big Island. And there's a very large percentage of people who are experiencing homelessness in addition to mental health issues. So that's kind of how this all stemmed, and I'll keep you posted as the meetings begin. Saguaro Correctional Center limited call schedule. This was brought up last month, I believe. The commission had received a complaint from the Innocence Project regarding struggling to get a hold of their clients due to the time change, the time difference between Arizona and Hawaii. Previously, the legal call schedule was Tuesday to Thursday from approximately 7:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Hawaii time. The commission did send out a letter on November 29th requesting that changes be made. And specifically that legal calls are held within the normal business hours of Hawaii, and if needed on after hours or weekends. The department did respond on December 19th, and the legal call schedule has been expanded from Monday to Friday now from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So it's not quite in line with Hawaii business hours. The reason for that is that the, and I don't want to get their title wrong, but I think they're the counselors, if I remember correctly. That's their entire shift of them being there, and they're the ones to kind of navigate those phone calls. So that's why. But in addition to that, the department did commit to making accommodations for after-hour client call requests from attorneys. So if you're an attorney and you're listening and you have issues with that, please let the commission know. This is an issue the commission cares about. So, but I am happy to see that there were adjustments made to the schedule, and I appreciate Tommy looking into that. HCCC condition updates. So this section is following a report from September 2nd, 2022. After Ted and I had toured HCCC and we saw the conditions there, we made a commitment for me to make bi-weekly trips and continue to report on the conditions. So we'll start off with overcrowding. So on January 17th, so yesterday, the 3 buildings at HCCC had a head count of 235, while the design capacity is 152. So this puts the facility at a 155% occupancy rate. So this rate is lower than the September 2nd rate. In September, it was 170%, but it has kind of fluctuated since that time. I am gonna pass it to Ron in just a little bit here, because one of the things that the commission has really been talking about and focusing on is the fact that the department, you know, they have no say in who they get and how many people they get. They have to let everybody in. They can't say, sorry, we're full. So we recognize that this isn't on them, even though it is their responsibility to house these people appropriately. We recognize that a lot of this lands on the judiciary branch and policing, et cetera, et cetera. So I will pass it on to Ron to kind of talk about what we're doing about that to try to help the department. But I do want to talk a little bit about the safety and security concerns. I have a great update. So as you know, the facility has been undergoing construction for many months. The construction in Punahele is finished outside of the fishbowl. The fishbowl is currently being constructed on, but that means that there are no individuals housed in the fishbowl. There will be no individuals housed in the fishbowl because all the cells are fixed. There are no padlocks on the cell doors, which I'm thrilled to see. And so that was a good visit to see. So some progress being made. The fishbowl will be used for what the department kind of uses as like indoor recreation. And so if people want to go in, play cards, like just have space out of their cell, but be inside, they can watch TV, like games, just have like some general out of cell time.
A day room.
Yeah, a day room. Yes. Speaking of day rooms, suicide and safety watch is still a massive, massive problem. The department is using a day room space behind a door in Punahele, which is in front of 4 cell doors. So it's a small space in front of 4 cell doors that's closed behind a solid door. And that space is called the day room, but it's not used as that. It's actually used for those who are on suicide or safety watch. I have brought this up since initially touring HCCC. I'm extremely concerned about this. 1, lack of access to water and toilets. That's number 1. 2, lack of visibility from the officer desk. 3, lack of privacy for the 12+ people in custody who are in those 4 cells. They can bang on the doors, they can yell, et cetera, et cetera. So for somebody who is on suicide or safety watch, that is not ideal. 4, there's no bed frame, it's just a mattress on the floor. 5, there's no area to store any type of property. And 6, it's a complete lack of humane treatment and decency as a whole towards individuals with potentially self-harming ideations and or actions. I wanted to read that verbatim because this is something that's just not acceptable, and I hate to see it. As of yesterday, there were 3 people in these spaces. It's something that I've continued to also talk to the warden at the facility about, but I think the challenge comes down to they just don't know where else to put these individuals. So we're continuing to look into it, but it's really disheartening to see every single time. I don't have an answer to it at this point. I don't know if commissioners have any thoughts on this, but it's something that I very desperately want to see changed. So moving forward to the shipping container / COVID housing. For those of you who are not aware, there are medical units used for people coming into the facilities. They are shipping containers that have been retrofitted to fit 4 cell doors, or sorry, 4 cells. So on January 18th, so yesterday, the containers had housed 7 individuals, 1 person in the first, 3 in the second, 0 in the third, and 3 in the fourth. This is probably the lowest number that I've seen, which is always good, but this changes rapidly because it's based on whoever's coming into custody. Based on the COVID stipulations, unless it is changed, my understanding is that it's still the 10-day isolation period. So once that isolation period is met, then these individuals can be housed appropriately. I will say one of the big issues with these cells is that the light fixture, I'm not positive if it's correction grade, but individuals in custody continue to break it. And when that light fixture is broken, those cells are pitch black. You absolutely cannot see it all. Officers actually have to use a flashlight to be able to see inside. In addition to that, there's just a lack of light in there in general. But anyhow, but that's something that I continue to talk to the facility about. I mean, I will give the facility credit that anytime the lights do break, they definitely prioritize it to get that fixed first. But in general, just these containers have definitely been problematic for the facilities.
They're at all the facilities?
I know that OCCC has some, HCCC in Maui. I want to say Maui.
What, Kristen, Waiava had them, I think the women's had them, but I think the only place we saw them in use was at HCCC.
Yes, I know it's in the report, so I'll double check. I want to say that Kauai was using it because Kauai was the one who was housing their women in them. And I had brought up many concerns, and so that has since changed. But yeah, it's like maybe Mick. I'm sorry to keep pulling you in, Mick, but I'm not sure if every facility has it or not. But I'll look into that.
Kulani don't have.
Perfect. Thank you, Mick. Every facility but Kalani. Okay. All right. Recreation. Recreation has improved, which is great. Recreation being outside recreation, so people can get fresher and sunlight. Individuals are telling me that they're getting outside at least 2 to 3 times a week, which is fantastic because when I initially visited, they actually weren't getting out at all, at least according to staff and people in custody. So great changes there. It's not quite to where it needs to be. I want to be clear about that. They should have daily access, but I'm really, really glad to see the improvements there. With visits, many concerns about visits to HCCC. One of the biggest things is that visits were shut down for a long time due to construction. I went and I toured it, I saw it, I understood it. Once construction had started finishing, I was under the impression the visit room would open back up. But what happened was the department chose to make non-contact spaces within the visit room, strictly non-contact. So there are still no visits, in-person visits available because the facility is currently waiting on the phones in order to be able to set up those non-contact visits. So I brought this up a few times before. I just have a lot of concerns. Visits are absolutely imperative for keeping in contact with the community, with family, and with friends. And having that physical interaction is extremely important for rehabilitation in general. And so to switch to completely non-contact, I just have a lot of concerns about that. This is not a supermax facility. It's not a max facility in general. It's a jail. And so many of these people have not been convicted of any crime. Many of these people are pre-trial, pre-sentence. So I have a lot of concerns about it. So currently, as of the last update I received, visits are still not happening in person. Individuals do have the option to do tablet visits. However, I'll be honest with you that if I had to just guess, I would guess maybe 20 to 30% of the population can actually afford to do video visits. And many people are not utilizing it because of that. So yeah, many concerns on that. Before I'd asked Tommy if they could consider doing video visits for free while the construction is occurring so that people could at least still have access to video visits. And I haven't followed up about that in a little while, so I'll follow up with him about that. I know that he would have to work with the vendor on that, so that may be the case, but I will follow up on that and report back. Now I want to switch over to Ron, who can talk about his experience at HCCC.
Okay, thank you. So on January 3rd, 2023, I visited the HCCC with Chief Judge Robert Kim and Deputy Chief Judge Kanani Labak. And this was arranged by the Director, Department of Public Safety at that time. I think it was Max Otani. So we went there, and Mr. Hoffman, representing the public safety, along with the warden and some other supervisors, we were given a tour of the 3 buildings, including Halenani. And actually, my purpose of going there was not similar to what Kristen did. Kristen was more detailed inspection comments. My purpose of going there was to see how the judges feel as to how the facilities look like where they're sending people to. You know, I felt that basically if the judge is going to send people to these facilities, they should see it and they should consider that in their determination whether a person is a flight risk or a threat to the public safety before they impose bail or incarcerate us without bail. And given that judges think differently from lay people because they have to make the tough decisions based on judicial independence. So I thought that seeing the place themselves hopefully would impact would have an impact on the decision in determining whether a person should be incarcerated. As we all know, we've been talking about the overcrowding of the facilities, and the facilities are overcrowded with pretrial detainees, mostly those that have not yet been convicted or people that have their probation revoked and awaiting court hearings. So I had a good discussion after the tour. Thanks to public safety personnel, the judges were allowed to ask questions as they were touring the facilities. I was observing the judges, and they, to me at least, expressed a deep interest in the facilities, how it appeared, and the programs that were being given. So I hope to continue these talks, at least to the people that are primarily involved in pretrial incarceration, such as the chief of police, because the chief of police of the county, pursuant to statute, sets bail initially before they go to court. The prosecutor's office that makes a recommendation to the judge, and of course the judge, and hoping that the judges would allow a consideration of the facilities in determining whether the person should be released or not. So I hope that we continue with all islands, with all circuits, having at least our commission when we visit the prison system, invite the judges. If not, I know Judge Tong has said he's willing to participate, that we can go with the judges separately so they can be more open in discussing their judicial concerns. Because certainly I sat on the bench for 28 years, and sometimes, I even myself disagreed with my own decision, but constitutionally, I had to decide that. So I hope that we can invite the judges to visit the prison system, as well as maybe the chief of police. Because the chief of police, of course, they're more familiar with the jail before they go to court. The public safety takes the defendant after a defendant goes to court. So I hope the chief of police, the judges, as well as the prosecutors can visit the facilities. I'm not saying that it's going to be a determinative on the decision-making, but I hope it has a factor in considering the decision-making. And hopefully it all adds up to less pretrial incarceration and will reduce the prison overcrowding.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and I really appreciate you taking the lead on that, Ron. I think a big initiative after Ted and I had toured and saw the immense overcrowding was trying to figure out all the other players who are involved in this, who we can kind of work with to make a difference. And so I really appreciate Ron doing that, and I will be leaning on Ron for future visits for all the different islands.
Of course, I didn't mention the biggest factor is the public, educating the public.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're trying to help UPSD with that overcrowding, I promise. We're trying. But
I think maybe we should consider for a future meeting actually coming up with kind of like a speakers bureau for the commissioners to help go out and help educate the public. I don't want to add anything to your plate, Kristen. That's something that we can do.
Okay.
And so maybe for the agenda next time.
Okay.
I was just pointing out in your report, page 5 of 6, expenses for the preceding month. See the break line down below. We didn't spend a cent, it's blank.
George sent it to me and I forgot to add it in the report. That was 100% my fault. I will update it and upload it today. This has been, I should note, this has been quite the week for me. So if you're waiting on an email response from me, please bear with me. It's all very exciting stuff, but it's just been very busy. But I will get back to you. I will fix the report and we'll be in a better spot. So yeah, so we did have a little bit of expenses. I think it was just 2 travel expenses from going to Hilo 2 times. So nothing too crazy. But the only other thing I wanted to mention, and I know that we'll mention this again before the end of the meeting, is that we will be having an additional meeting next week, a week from today, at 2 p.m. And this meeting is to go over any and all legislation that is related to criminal justice so that the commission can all be on the same page. And so that I can make sure that I understand where the commission stands on all these so I can represent better. All right.
All right, any other comments toward Christian's report?
Mark, I had a question on Kristen, inmate who died at Halava.
Yeah.
It was, as I heard correctly, he was 87.
Yeah.
Do you know what his sentence was and what he was in for?
Bob, can you answer that?
Turn on
Bob,
your mic.
You're on mute, Bob.
Bob, you're on mute.
Yeah, the individual who passed away, I was told it was on Christmas Eve, but right at Christmas time, was 87 years old. He had tons of medical problems. I worked for at least a year and a half to try and get him into Leahi Hospital. Leahi would not take him because he was a sex offender. And because of that offense, nobody wanted him. And we tried everything to find someone to take him. We tried to get him back home into Kentucky, where he was from originally. But we never located his family. We never located any relatives. I think he's going to have a Department of Human Services cremation paid for because there are no relatives to give the remains to. But he was a sex offender, and he was they were willing to parole him, medical release probably 2 years ago. I thought we were going to get him into Leahi, but at the last minute they just said, no, we're not going to take him because he might hurt a child, even though this guy he was deaf, he couldn't walk, and he was really he was in a wheelchair and had heart problems, and everybody wanted him out, but Leahi just stubbornly said, no, he's a sex offender, we're not going to take him. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay. Definitely have to have more discussions on that, Bob, as we had in the past, in terms of how do we handle the elderly in our system that are really no longer public safety concerns. So that's
I
a
agree.
topic. When we look at Christian's report, there seems to be a lot, but this is all work in progress. And as we're finding it out, public safety has come and heard and listened and are doing what they can at this time to work with Christian on resolving a lot of the issues that you just heard today, and continuing building and working our relationship. If you think that Christian is done with her reporting, she has another item, number 9, that she wants to talk about right now. And she was going to present the annual report that we turned into the legislature earlier this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we submitted an annual report, which was very exciting, and it can be found on our website under reports. But today I threw together a PowerPoint just to kind of run through not too many specifics in the report, but just to kind of give you an idea of what's in there in case you would like to check it out and read for yourself. So George, can you bring up the PowerPoint for me? All right, so you can do next slide. So today we're going to cover the introduction, issues of concern from the commission, tours and impressions of facilities, other actions taken, strategic priorities, legislative priorities, proposed legislation, and a brief summary. So for the introduction, I'm not going to read all this, but I pulled this because this is exactly what is in the commission's mandate. So there are 4 parts that are really the main functions of the commission. And I actually break this down a little bit different than it's numbered. So the first part kind of has overseeing the correctional system and helping the department facilitate a rehabilitative and therapeutic model within the same line there. So I actually separate those when I think about the function of the commission. So I think of it as overseeing the state's correction system is number 1. Number 2, facilitating a rehabilitative and therapeutic model. Number 3, setting the inmate population limits for each correctional facility. And number 4, reentry. You can see on this first slide, 3 and 4 all encompasses reentry specifically. And that's why when we were looking at hiring, instead of hiring an investigator, which we still desperately need, and I'll talk about that later, but we are going to be hiring a reentry and diversion oversight specialist first, because so much of the commission's law focuses on reentry and diversion. Next slide. Meet our lovely commissioners. We have Mark Patterson, Honorable Ron Ibarra, Ted Sakai, Martha Torney, and Honorable Mike Town. So today, Mike and Ted are virtual, but all of these commissioners are amazing. You can see who appointed them. And I hope that they continue to stay on this commission for a long time. So now shifting into issues of concern. So I kind of broke this up as any issue that the commission had sent a letter about or had become personally invested in. That's kind of what we're covering. So XIII, I talked about this in the monthly report, but all of these issues stem from a September 2nd, 2022 report after Ted Sakai and I had toured. So we're very concerned about overcrowding, safety and security, lack of programs, suicide safety watch, COVID-19 housing recreation visits, and of course, potential federal violations. So since that report came out, the commission and I have made the commitment to make bi-weekly tours to XIII. Of course, releasing the monthly reports on the conditions. We talk about it at the meetings. We share the reports with the legislature, which I'm sure that they love because I'm asking for funding and support for not only the department, but also for our office. And then we also did request the Department of Public Safety create a strategic plan for long-term fixes, and particularly regarding overcrowding. And on our end, we're trying to help with overcrowding again by, getting the judges in these facilities, having, starting these conversations, having these conversations, seeing how we can all work together. And eventually we will also be working with prosecutors and police, kind of doing the same thing. So notable changes since that September report came out. The occupancy rate has declined. So it went from 170% to around 157. I know that doesn't seem like a huge decline, but trust me, for the people living in these conditions, that is a huge decline. Construction was completed in Punahele. There's no more padlocks on the doors, which is fantastic. New uniforms have been distributed. Designated staff have been trained for the grievance process, and a new rec schedule has been posted, which, I know I kind of talked about this in the report, but it's all really important. Next slide. So homelessness within XIII. So commissioners met with Going Home Hawaii. Again, Going Home Hawaii is an amazing organization that really focuses on reentry on the Big Island. And we know that XIII is the most overcrowded jail. And we know that there's approximately 30% of homeless people cycling in and out. These people are also predominantly Native Hawaiian, and they have they're more likely to have, I should say, mental health issues or substance abuse disorders. So again, the commission's been working hand in hand with Going Home Hawaii. I have now joined the steering committee, and we're really excited to work on developing that plan for the Reentry Summit in April of 2023. And of course, we'll keep you updated on how all that goes. Saguaro, I already covered this earlier in this meeting, but the adjustments have been made, which is great. So we can move on to the next slide. EMR, I know I covered this as well. We're obviously still working on this, but again, I do appreciate the department continuously updating us, and we're going to see how we can best support them to make sure that this gets fixed. Next slide. Tours and impressions of facilities. So I want to make it very clear, these points here are based on initial tours and initial impressions. So this is not me looking at logbooks, looking at cameras, interviewing staff, nothing like that. This is me just and Ted walking through the facility and getting an idea of what we're seeing. So for Halava, I felt like this was a highly punitive design. It really reminded me of kind of like a Supermax facility design. There's very limited out of cell time, and mental health patients are housed in a very punitive setting, which is of course concerning. Waiava, very clear staffing shortages, lack of work lines and job assignments and programming because of those staff shortages. Facilities can't run without staff. Facilities need staff so that they can take people in custody to their work lines. They need to be able to escort and be able to stay with these people. So that's why the lack of staff is affecting everything. There are no cameras at Waiava. I have never heard of this at a correction facility, but there are absolutely no cameras at this facility. However, I know that the department is working on that. to add cameras. And there's also a lack of bed utilization within Waiava. Waiava is a pretty rehabilitative looking space. It's kind of you call it like cabins, maybe cabin structure. But anyway, but the beds aren't being filled. So I would, for me personally, looking at those two facilities, I would much rather see more people at Waiava and Kulani than Halava. The women's facility, it's extremely old, and they have a serious lack of working cameras, which is particularly concerning for PREA complaints. PREA is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. It protects people in custody from each other and also from staff. So very concerned about that. I know the department is working on cameras though. And for Kulani, very similar to Waiava, it's a rehabilitative environment with cabin-like housing, but it wasn't filled. The beds weren't filled, which was disappointing to see. In addition to that, the programming and correctional industry space was not being utilized. They have a massive, I don't want to say warehouse, but a large space, a large building that has a wood shop area, a sewing area, laundry, you know, just for people to pick up some skills, and none of that is being utilized currently. Next slide. So now we're shifting into the jails. So starting with OCCC, which is the largest jail. Very clear staffing shortages. And this was particularly concerning because OCCC has many individuals on suicide and safety watch because they have a unit kind of dedicated to that, or an area in a unit dedicated to that. And so this clearly affects direct observation for these individuals. Evident overcrowding. Overcrowding is very specific to the jails here. The prisons are not overcrowded, the jails are. And a large reason for that is because of this pretrial and pre-sentence population. For healthcare concerns, the infirmary is a strange setup at OCCC. It's almost in what appears to be a hallway, and so there's lack of privacy, lack of space. It's just not ideal. HCCC, you know the issues here, we've covered them, but I do want to make a note about HCCC because I just think this is so important. When it comes to overcrowding, I want to make it clear, if you took every single sentence individual and removed them from HCCC, that facility would still be overcrowded. And so I just want to highlight that because it really shows, you know, people sometimes forget the vast majority of these people who are in jails have not been sentenced. They're going through their trial. And so, you know, we just really need to be mindful of that. And that's, again, why we're working with judges. For Maui, clear, again, staff shortages, lack of movement within the facility because of that. And Kauai, I was right, it was Kauai. At the time that we had toured, they were using the COVID containers for permanent housing for women, which was not what those were meant for. It's not what they were made for. And the department did put a halt to that. So overall impressions, I'm sure that you all can kind of see a theme here. Next slide. But there are clear evident staffing shortages. Officers have mandatory overtime ranging from 16-hour shifts to 24-hour shifts. I don't think that I've met an officer yet who was just on an 8-hour. It's pretty wild. And because of that, that limits the out of cell time for people in custody, because again, officers need to be there to escort these individuals and keep everybody separate and safe. Serious overcrowding. The average for the prisons, and I believe this was pulled in September, but the average for prisons at the time was around a 93% capacity. The jails average across the board are 156% capacity. And again, if you took all the sentenced individuals out, they would still be overcrowded. So that really shows what we need to focus on. Classification issues. This is something the commission has brought up a few times, that nearly 80% of people in custody are in secure settings, whereas the average rate across the country is 40 to 50%. So this creates a serious lack of movement and out of cell time for those in custody. a secure setting is a more restrictive setting. And then obviously, the electronic medical record being down, it's been down since June 14th, 2022, causing staff to rely on pen and paper-based system. And there's still no clear indication of when that will be fixed. So other actions taken by the commission, you know, Mark and I had attended the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement Conference in 2022. I also attended the Criminal Law Forum in 2022. This is when I presented to 81 attorneys, 32 judges, and 11 other guests, including court administrators and law clerks. And the importance of that, of course, was to talk about the conditions of the facilities. That was a really interesting forum because I was kind of getting the understanding from judges that they felt that when it comes between sending people on the street or sending people in custody, at least if they sent people in custody, they would get therapy and mental health treatment and programming and all these things that just simply are not happening. So it was a really great forum. I was very excited to be invited to that, and the work continues on. I also attended Manawahine Ikolu 2022, which was hosted by the Pua Foundation, and it was a female empowerment conference for focusing on trauma healing and justice. So I really appreciated being invited to that. Moving on to strategic priorities, I'm not going to jump too much into this because get excited, we have another slideshow after this that's all in relation to our strategic priorities. So we can go ahead and skip ahead. Legislative priorities. So I'm going to lean on Martha a little bit for this section.
And I'm coming back.
And she's coming back. But my understanding of the commission's legislative priorities, particularly in relation to last legislative session, with the new OCCC and bail reform. And Martha, if I can turn it to you.
Well,
So-
I'm just going to talk about one bill that we asked to have introduced as opposed to the budget bill and the bail reform.
Okay.
And so this bill is being introduced by Sonny Ganigan in the House and by Glenn Wakai in the Senate. And what we proposed is, first of all, to extend the term of the staff member or the coordinator from 2 years to 6 years. We were very surprised that it was a 2-year term. That means we have to go out recruiting every 2 years, interviewing and select someone. And that's a big burden. And so we're asking that be extended to 6 years. Let's see, do I have the right bill in front of me? Oh, I don't think I have the right bill in front of me. I'm sorry. We also asked in this bill, do you have a copy of the bill?
Well, it's
With
on
you?
we have it on the slide if that's helpful.
Yes, because I don't seem to have the right one. I'm missing pages, that's what it is. We gave it to legislative staff to make copies of, and I don't think they gave me 2 pages. So we're also asking that the commission itself be given confidentiality when we are discussing investigations. It says in our in our act in 353L that we're responsible for investigations. And under the coordinators section, it says very clearly that these investigations are confidential, but it does not say that for the commission. So we asked them to amend the commission's law to require us to maintain confidentiality in respect to all matters and the identities of the complaints or witnesses pursuant to an investigation by the oversight coordinator. And those investigations, again, are confidential. And when they are completed, we will be providing information to the public, probably very similar to the way the ombudsman does it, where they give a summary of what the complaint was and what the resolution. It will not be including names and things such as that. And then we also asked that we amend this section where under 353-L7C, it reads, in an investigation, the oversight coordinator shall make inquiries and obtain information and enter without notice to inspect, We want to have that the coordinator can enter without notice to inspect at any time. It does not have to be pursuant to an investigation. So we're asking to amend that language and delete the first 4 words, which are in an investigation, comma, the court or the, and replace it with the oversight coordinator may make inquiries and obtain information as the oversight coordinator thinks fit. Enter without notice to inspect the premises of an agency or correctional facility, and in an investigation, hold private hearings in accordance with Chapter 91. So giving broader access to the correctional facilities for other things other than just the to respond to complaints. And that's our bill.
Thank you, Martha. All right, so in summary, and I really encourage you all to check out the annual report, because this is a very short PowerPoint, but that report contains an immense amount of information, including all of the testimony that commissioners had given from last legislative session. So you can kind of see where the commission stands on different issues. And of course, we'll be talking about where the commission stands on issues in this upcoming legislative session. So lots of good stuff to be found, but the big thing is that the commission is dedicated to educating the public and really any and all stakeholders about how this system needs change and how we can reduce recidivism, strengthen public safety. And I think the commission appreciates everyone's support.
I do want to address one thing in the report that's also in the strategic plan, and this has to do with population limits. I don't have the full report in front of me right now. I only have the PowerPoint, but in the report, Kristen suggests that we look at the 2001 and kind of verify the 2001 report. And I want to, as the one who participated in developing the 2001 report, it was based on ACA standards, which have evolved since that time. It does not consider the federal performance-based detention standards, which are based on the American Correctional Association standards. And so I don't know if there's a difference between the two of them. Also, the COVID capacities, I want everyone to realize that that was a desk exercise. When we come up, we did not visit the correctional facilities. We did have drawings of the correctional facilities. We did have the previous report, and Ted and I have the knowledge, more intimate knowledge of those facilities, but it was a desk exercise. So I put caution on that COVID report. So the reason I believe that we should contract this out if we're able to, and Kristen said in the request in the budget, not all that was approved by the Department of the Attorney General, but the original request, we were asking for about $200,000 for that, and we will still attempt to get that from the legislative session. And the reason this is so important is because it is under that section of the law about the population limits that the law continues to say that it requires the commission to formulate policies and procedures to prevent the inmate population from exceeding the capacity of each correctional facility. That gives us our greatest mandate to address the system. And so we need to get this part right. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
Any other questions on this annual report from the commissioners or comments? I'd like to say, as Martha said earlier, this is our third annual since we've been meeting since 2020 January. And when you look at this annual report, it's kind of misleading because it's really since July. Since
Where our two previous annual reports were like little kids handing in 5 or 6 pages, and this one is very complete.
and
We're very
so
lucky.
this is an example of the value of staff, everyone. Really,
good staff.
obviously, great staff. She came in the last 6 months, and this is basically what she did in the last 6 months. And George, so last 3 months. So
And we're hoping to get more.
we are learning as a commission the extent in detail. We have someone, and as we always were saying, for eyes and ears into the facility, which is Christian, and the annual report is beginning to formulate the foundation for where the commission will start its work or continue its work, but more detailed. And it basically led us to our next agenda item, our 12-month strategic plan. Yeah, and I think you folks will be excited about this. Everything we've learned the last 6 months will be looked at in our strategic plan, and Christian can take it away.
All right, George, can you share the strategic plan PowerPoint?
Once again, it is on our website, everyone.
Yes, yes, both PowerPoints and the strategic plan and the annual report can all be found on our website.
And while we await, I do want to also recognize Christian and George going around the legislative capitol yesterday, handing out these annual reports and strategic plans and meeting every representative and every senator they could.
Yeah.
So thank you for wading through the crowd.
George and I were very proud that we went to every single legislative office to drop off the strategic plans. And we'll also be meeting with all the legislators in the future, which is also exciting.
How was the food?
Great. So good. So good.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So yeah, so I wanted to create a strategic plan to really set the foundation for this office, because as you know, I started 6 months ago. That's when the office opened. And so now I take great responsibility, and I take it very seriously, to set the precedent of what oversight will be in the state for years and years and years to come well after I'm gone. So this strategic plan is just a brief start to that, and I'm excited. So we're going to cover the introduction and background of the commission, and we're going to cover what oversight is, our vision, mission, and values, our strategic priorities, implementation, and also our future organizational charts. So how did the commission begin? Believe it or not, there were a few stakeholders that took a trip to Norway and were really blown away by what they saw. Norway has a very, very rehabilitative and therapeutic correctional system, much, much different from the American system. So when that group came back, they pushed forward a House Concurrent Resolution, Task Force 85, and this task force was created in 2016. That Task Force 85 had published a report in 2018, and a part of that report was recommending corrections oversight for the state of Hawaii. So HCSOC was created in 2019 from Act 179 in 2019, and the commission began meeting in January of 2020. So happy 3rd anniversary, everyone. So today, the commissioners consist of 1 member appointed by the governor, who is Ted Sakai, 1 member appointed by the president of the Senate, who is Honorable Mike Town, 1 member who is appointed by the Speaker of the House, who is Martha Torney, 1 member who is appointed by the Chief Justice, who is Honorable Ron Ibarra, and 1 member who is appointed by the Board of Trustees of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, who is our chair, Mark Patterson. So what is oversight? So I pulled this from the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. NACOL has been one of the front runners when it comes to setting the standards of what oversight is and what it can be. And in most recent years, NACOL has been shifting to add corrections as a large part of this, and I have been a very active part of that as well. So there are 13 general principles that are considered key components to independent oversight. So independence, which we have, clearly defined and adequate jurisdiction and authority, we definitely have. Unfettered access to records and facilities, we have that. Access to corrections executives and internal affairs staff, we have that. Full cooperation from all officers and department staff, we have that. Sustained stakeholder support, we are working on that. Adequate funding and operational resources, we absolutely do not have that, but we are working on it. Public reporting and transparency, I don't think we're quite where we need to be. That's why we're creating our case management system, so we can start taking in complaints, investigate, and kind of publish what that looks like. So we're not quite there, but we're working on it. Analysis of policy and patterns and practice. So what this is talking about is looking at departmental policy that exists within the Department of Public Safety and trying to figure out how the policy is utilized, if it is effective, and moving forward, which we can do. We're not quite there yet, but we will. Community outreach, community involvement. So having these meetings, allowing people to speak, of course, meeting with different community members. Confidentiality, anonymity, and protection from retaliation. We aren't quite there on this. Now, I have been talking to Tommy about the Department of Public Safety potentially creating a specific policy that covers the commission. So what the commission is, who the commission is, what the commission does, et cetera, and including in that policy that any staff member who wants to speak to the commission or speak to the oversight coordinator will be protected from any form of retaliation. That is not in writing yet. That is something that we are working on though. And lastly, procedural justice and legitimacy. So when we talk about procedural justice, what this means is a policy may have been followed. However, just because the policy is followed does not mean that it was a legitimate way of following it. And so what I mean by that is if you have two people and you're treating one completely differently than the other, but when you look at the cases individually, you're following policy, that is not procedural justice. Procedural justice encompasses equity. It's making sure that, you know, the way that the policies are being followed makes sense, especially when it comes to you know, the mission and values of the Department of Public Safety. So it's diving in a little bit deeper than just normal procedural work. So there's 4 different types of really 3, and then there's a hybrid model. So there's 3 different types of oversight. So you have the review model. Review is very much how it sounds. The department is the one who handles any type of investigation, and the review model gets those investigations, takes a look. That's how that works. Monitor auditor. That is a little more what I kind of refer to as like the checklist. So if I wanted to know, for example, how often recreation is being completed in every unit, I could put together an auditing tool to make sure that I get into each of the units, check the logbooks, et cetera, to do that. The last is the investigation model. Investigation model is my particular favorite. That is when the oversight agency itself investigates the situation at hand. You know, so does their own interviews, their own analysis, et cetera, et cetera. The approach that this office will be taking is the hybrid approach. So we're kind of mixing all 3 of those into one. And so there will be situations where it's most appropriate to take a look at an investigation that has already been completed, or to do an auditing report like I had mentioned with recreation, for example, and definitely appropriate to do our own investigations. But sometimes a part of that is, again, pulling in the department's investigations to all encompass our findings too. So we're doing the hybrid model, and I'm hoping that we're going to have our policies and procedures completed by summer, which would align with our case management system, and hopefully, fingers crossed, also the hiring of our 2 investigative staff who would be our prison monitor and our jail monitor. So hopefully that all comes to fruition, but this is the model that we're looking for, searching for, and working towards. So there are many, many benefits to oversight. There are benefits to, obviously, incarcerated people, benefits to correctional administrators, benefits to judges, prosecutors, defense lawyers, and policymakers, and benefits to the media and general public. The big thing about oversight is transparency and accountability. And so anything that we do, we will make sure that we are honest about it.
We're just asking to speed this up a bit because this information is available on our website. And so I appreciate Kristen going through it in such detail, but we really need to move the meeting forward.
I got you. So mission, vision, values. Again, this is in the report, but we really wanted to post this and make it public to show that this is the direction the HCSOC is going in. And these are the values that we're going to remind ourselves of every single day when we're looking into complaints and hearing from family members. So strategic priorities, I already kind of touched on this a little bit in the annual report, but I kind of broke this down into oversight, rehabilitation, population limits, and reentry. Reentry is the big one here. You can see there's a lot of words there. So the words that are under each of these are pulled directly from statute, and that's how we are going to focus this office.
You know, the one group that we have not really incorporated into what we're doing is parole, and I would like to see in the future parole at least be in attendance
Yeah.
at these meetings. Yeah.
We can definitely look into that. So for oversight, I won't jump into the strategies. Again, all of this is available online. I really do hope you take a look. But the big thing for oversight is fully equipping our office. So, hiring staff. Again, finalizing those investigative monitoring procedures so that everybody understands their process. And lastly, increasing engagement and transparency related to public safety and corrections. So that is in relation to, bringing the judges into the facilities, educating the public, doing presentations like these, et cetera, et cetera. So rehabilitation, many strategies here, but the big objectives: evaluate what is currently happening, and really with a focus on rehabilitation. Conduct ongoing research studies of the operation and administration of correctional system laws in other jurisdictions. That's actually pulled directly from the mandate. 3, to create opportunities to work in partnership with community, government, nonprofits, and design and recommend changes that support rehabilitation and safer communities. So I really want to put this in because the big thing that I want to make clear is that this commission and we're not just working with each other. We want to hear from you. We want to work with you, and especially those who have been deeply affected by the system. Population limits. A lot of this is going to come with legislative changes. That's a big one here, and we'll talk more about that next week. We also need to establish the maximum inmate population limits for each correctional facility. That's right out of the mandate. And then lastly, formulate policy procedures to prevent that population from exceeding. That is also pulled out of the mandate, but the strategies highlight how we're going to do that. And lastly, we have reentry. And so really familiarizing the public with the requirements that are set in law 353H. That is specific to the offender reentry system. We're also going to be monitoring and reviewing the comprehensive offender reentry program. So again, that is the program that exists within 353H. So if you want to know what we're talking about, check out that law. And then ensure a timely release of inmates on parole, particularly when the minimum serves have been served. Hawaii has some of the longest probation and parole terms of the country. So this is a really big one here. So implementation, how are we going to do it? So recruiting talented and passionate staff, that's definitely a big one. We are moving forward with our reentry, our diversion and reentry oversight specialists. We're really excited to bring them on, hopefully within the next month or two. And then obviously working in partnership with community, families, staff, the department, and so many other stakeholders, because again, this is a huge system, many players are at hand, and so we really need to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table. We will keep our update we will keep our website up to date as much as possible to again ensure transparency. When we talk about accessibility to complaint tools, what we're talking about is that complaint management system that we are working on building now, and again, we're hoping that that will be finalized in summer. And lastly, design and implement procedures to operationalize strategies detailed in this plan. So this is the organizational chart. We have the commissioners, we have me, we have George. All the other positions that you see there have not been filled. We're hoping to fill reentry and diversion soon. Prison oversight specialists and jail oversight specialists, I would argue, outside of reentry, those are my two most important positions. I really hope we get funding for them. We absolutely need them. Those are the eyes and ears in the facilities. And then below all of them, we'll have our research and policy associates to help with policy and research. So researching what other jurisdictions are doing across the country and making sure that we are staying on track.
And grant writing.
And grant writing, yes,
That's one of the
Michael, and
important
grant
things.
writing.
Now, Christian submitted a budget request through the Department of the Attorney General, is the proper way to do that, asking for all these positions to be funded. And you never want to see law and sausage made. So what came out the other end was giving you 2 additional positions,
Yeah, they.
not all of these. The prison, yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, so the budget that was presented to me was not what I submitted. They took out the prison oversight specialist, the jail oversight specialist, and one of the research and policy associates.
And this is
So-
usually the Department of Budget and Finance in their review, because they're looking at the entire state budget together, and they're the ones to start making these reductions. We have no reason to believe the AG made these reductions.
No, yeah.
They're done by,
Yeah, and
a different
it's not
department.
about, my big thing is that I wanted to make it clear to the legislature that that was not what I submitted. And so I wrote a letter and they read it, which was great. They read it, they asked me about it. And so I testified 2 weeks ago, last week. I testified last week, Monday, in front of the House. They asked about my letter, they asked about the positions and if those positions, how important those positions were to the work, which I told them they were imperative to the work. I absolutely cannot do this job without these positions. I think it went well. And tomorrow I'll be testifying in front of the Senate. And I'll be doing the exact same thing. I'll be writing them a letter and explaining what I'm hoping for, and we will see how it goes. But so far, I think that legislators see the importance, they see the need, at least based on the conversations I've had so far. So I'm really, really hopeful. And there will be a time that comes where testimony on the commission's behalf will be monumental to ensure that we get funding. So just keep that in your back pocket for the future. If you'd like to support it, that would definitely be the best way.
Just to clarify, it was House Finance, and then tomorrow is Senate Ways and Means Committees.
Yeah.
That she'll be testifying in front. Commissioners, you have any other comments or questions for Christian on our strategic plan? Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very interesting read, and it's really important that we all take a look at it and understand it. It's really something that we have put in writing to hold ourselves accountable for what the mandate allows us or has us to do. And so, Christian, thank you for the hard work that you put into this based on your first 6 months, but it really gives us a beginning to look at as we move forward in 2023 on aligning ourselves effectively as we move forward. And, just when we talk about systemic change and the work that needs to be done, and as we know, there's so much that was said today, it can be such a big thing, and how do you just really focus on it? And the strategic plan kind of allows for some of that focus to occur. What we're about to do as a commission is not overnight. It's going to be a journey for us. And we're really setting the foundation so that the journey is really starts, it has already started,
Yes.
but becomes stronger as we move forward. And I always like to use an example to show that it can be done. And so in 2004, in the juvenile system, Judge Karen Radius advocated and implemented girls' court. Which was something remarkable at the time. But 18 years after girls' court was formed, Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility zeroed out its girls' population. So when you understand the cultural, the legislative actions, the community support that it took 18 years to learn how to better treat our most vulnerable girls and their families, that the Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility went to zero for approximately 80 days. So not only says that it's doable, but how do we sustain it? And then how do we change the prison into something else for our girls? We're not saying that the issues have been resolved. We say there's better ways of managing and dealing and healing than a punitive model. So that's an example of a long-term journey in what we're about to do here at the commission is look for better ways to treat our most vulnerable populations. And so I just want to give a hats off for Christian for putting a lot of things in words for us to set as a foundation. And if I'm going to throw one more name in there, Martha was very instrumental in setting the foundation for the Office of Youth Service right
No,
after
responding
Girls
to a settlement agreement
Yeah.
after we got sued by the Department of
But you
Justice.
set the foundation, Martha. She's very instrumental
Okay,
as
hey,
well.
George, I see up here, it says new Windows updates installed. Can you get rid of that? You can say postpone.
So we're going to move on. And just there's some hope in there that it's everything that we're looking at is possible now.
Thank
Item
you.
number 11.
Oh, still me, okay.
Yep.
Update from meeting with the Correctional Reform Working Group. So I believe the last update that I had was that we had a meeting scheduled with the governor. That meeting unfortunately had to be postponed due to the plane crash that occurred on Maui last month. So we rescheduled and we're actually meeting with the governor tomorrow. No, this Friday, tomorrow.
Yeah,
Tomorrow, which is Friday, yeah. So we will be meeting with the governor tomorrow. We're really, really looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a great meeting. And so of course, I will be back next month with updates on how it went.
okay, the next
Okay.
steps.
Next steps on planning of the new OCCC.
Mick, are you available? You still with us?
Yeah, Kristen, I'm available, and we have Bettina and Chris also available.
Oh, great. Thank you all. I was just, are you aware for the next steps in planning OCCC, do you know if the $15 million was requested for that?
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem. So I don't think there's much of an update.
Was there a discussion with Tommy about a meeting?
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Yes, there is a slight update. So Tommy had reached out to me and he asked if I was willing to set up a meeting with him, the consultants who are in charge of the new jail design, Hurd, and Senator
Dags, I think it means.
Dags,
Yeah.
yes, thank you, Martha. Sorry, I'm still learning all these different departments, but he had reached out and asked if we could have a meeting just to get a general understanding of what was going on in the new jail, and I absolutely said yes. And so Martha and Ted will be in attendance to that meeting. Do we have a specific date, George?
I think it's,
We're just confirming times.
Okay, so we'll be meeting on the 30th. And the purpose of this really is just to have an open conversation about what the plans are and what is happening. Because I know I just don't know. And so it's going to be a huge learning curve for me. After meeting with Senator Glenn Rakai, I did mention that I appreciated Tommy reaching out to me for this meeting so that we can learn more. He asked if he can also be a part of it. And so Senator Glenn Rakai will be joining the fun. And again, I will most certainly come back with updates on how it went and what we learned. Thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ted.
This is for Mick, and you may not know the answer, but I appreciate any kind of follow-up. The commission 2 years ago advised, put in writing that there should be a pause in the planning of the new OCCC, and one of our recommendations was that the department form a community advisory group. We went back and forth with Max about the group and forming the group, and the group was not formed. Last year, I think it was during the summer, Max informed us that he had been working with somebody at the university to get input. That's my understanding. My question is, what's the status of that project? Who's involved? What's the scope of the university's responsibility on this? And how does it impact the planning of the new OCCC? So do you know anything about it?
Nick?
I believe it was with the College of Agriculture.
Correct.
Architecture.
Architecture, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ted, I was muted. Ted, is there a way you could just email me with the specifics you just asked? I did get down basically what you're asking me, but I'd like to address every issue that you just questioned. Is there a way you could shoot me an email with that, and then I will get a response back to you quickly?
Sure. Okay. And the other thing I would like to add is that if Max at one point has said he really couldn't talk about it because he was in contract negotiations, I'd like to see the scope of services for the contract if it hasn't finalized. So I'll put it down.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you, Ted. Well, I gotta
Okay.
keep looking. Sometimes I mute and then I don't mute. And
Sure.
but yeah, if you can get that to me, I'll get it back to you as quickly as I can.
Okay.
I'm wondering if maybe Bettina might know anything about this, or Chris?
Hi, everybody. Bettina Maynard with AHL. We can't comment on other contracts that PSD or DAGs have, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering if you knew more information that you could share. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay. So we'll have many updates.
Thank you, Mick, for that follow-up. And thank you,
Thank you,
Ted.
Mick. And thank you, Bettina.
Yeah, Morris.
Oh,
We're at item number 13. Were we going to receive an update? Are you aware of? Or will this smooth
I don't think any,
You might be as up to date as they
Yeah,
are.
I
yeah.
don't think anything has changed since the letter that we received, because we just got it pretty recently.
Yeah, Mark, this is Mick. I can say earlier when Kristen covered the information that Tommy had sent, we're about in that same place. There would be nothing else really to inform the commission on at this time.
Thank you so much, Mick.
Thank you, Mick.
You're welcome. I guess Mark, are you moving on to?
Go ahead,
14?
Mick. Yep.
Well, I'd like to start out with, some unfortunate information. It was discussed, we did have a Halava Correctional Facility offender die in December. That death is now being classified by the Department of Health as a COVID-19 related death. And then I think Kristen and I forget who was that gave some of the profile, but I'm not able to actually provide any other information than what was already given. It's just sad to say that the DOH has now ruled that death as COVID-19 related. With that, this is the first time I'm reporting numbers for your vaccinations and infections. Active cases today, or this was reported I got yesterday. Active cases were low, thank God. I mean, I hope everybody realizes we still go up and down in terms of being able to operate when COVID sneaks in, and then we got to do all the isolation and quarantining and then wait for that all to get done. But as of yesterday, HCCC had 9 reported active cases. MCCC had 2. OCCC had 7. So, I mean, we're doing pretty good this time. I know we just came out of, Halava just had come out of another series and rounds. Our vaccinations at this time, if you want me to drill down any specific facility, I can. I can give you total numbers, or I can break it down for you if you want to ask. I don't know if you want every facility, every dose, every second dose booster, but this would include Saguaro Correctional Facility, who also did not have any active cases, but first dose administrations, total, this is department-wide, including Saguaro, 1,621. The second dose of that initial vaccination, there are 4,668. Boosters, 2,408. Second boosters, a little less, 167. And then what they're calling updated boosters, 89, for a total of 9,053. So it seems like our requests to be boosted, we still pay offenders for initial vaccination and boosters, but it seems like the numbers are decreasing. That could be attributed to more people have been now vaccinated over the last 2 or 2.5 years since this all really has started. I'm not sure, but we are continuing with our recommendations for boosters and initial vaccinations if they have not had them when they come in. Other than that, if anybody wants any specific numbers, I mean, you can, I'm here and I do have that data.
Yeah, Mick, with that data, all I can say is to me, it's not very helpful because it's all cumulative. In the past 3 years, you've given 1,621 first doses. You know, what, and I don't know whether you can do this. What would be much more helpful if we knew last month, this is how many vaccinations were given, first dose, second dose, because cumulative doesn't really tell us what's going on today.
Yes.
And
okay.
it's the way it's been reported from the beginning. So it's not that I'm criticizing the reporting.
Let me try to see if we can put that in that kind of a reporting format for you. So you're saying you would like to see, like, say, for instance, last month, how many people were vaccinated, how many people took their either first booster or second booster. Is that how you want it reported?
Yes, I'm requesting that. Thank you.
Okay, if everybody's consistent with that, I think we can try to put those numbers together for you in that format.
Thank you, Mick.
No problem.
Need to know the positives.
Any other questions on either vaccinations or boosters?
Could you also let us know for each month, anyone numbers, if any, test positive?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Rodney-Bar, I have a question. So you gave us the active cases. Did you do an analysis on the percentage of boosters, whether the boosters have any impact on the active cases?
I personally will have to go and speak with our medical people on that matter, but we can try to determine. So I'm guessing you're trying to like analyze if people getting boosters are catching COVID.
Yes, HCCC has 9, right?
Yes.
Active cases. So it'd be interesting to find out how many of the population had boosters or been vaccinated.
And
Yeah,
I would,
this is
I
where
would
I think Martha's analysis would be better served, because I can only give you whole numbers. So we'll try to do that for you guys on the next meeting.
and Mick, you know, in the CCCs, of course, it's very possible that people came in positive.
That's true, Martha. I mean, this is kind of a little sneaky kind of game, this virus. It's you can have plenty of people who have been boosted and vaccinated and still catching it. People come in with it. Sometimes it's brought in. I mean, but we're doing our best to manage it. I think it's becoming a little bit more manageable than it was initially when it first kind of hit, and you know, it really scared a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm not a medical person, but it appears maybe that the new viruses or these whatever they call them when they mutate, They may not be quite as serious. Maybe that's the wrong terminology, but we see the symptoms aren't quite as bad as it was like initially 2.5 years ago. That may be helping. Also the boosters, the vaccinations, who knows, maybe even people's own immune systems are making them more prone to be able to fight it off if they catch it.
And
But
Mick, I would presume that some of the offenders that come in also have been vaccinated on the outside. And I'm sure that medical asks that question. We just don't know how often the answer is the right answer.
yeah, they do. And then we still offer boosters as well.
Okay, so thank
So
you.
it's then up to the offenders, but it's there for them if they want to.
Okay, thank you for that information.
I noticed that the Gavin Takinaka is on the
Yeah.
on this. Gavin, can you shed any light on any of this, if you can?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Not sure what specifically you want me to respond to, but reinfections do occur. Even when someone is vaccinated, they will get infected. This has been known for well over a year now. So at that point, when information started coming out about the vaccine not being a prophylactic, we stopped tracking infections by vaccinations because it was happening. I believe it was initially at the HCCC cluster early on where we discovered that a lot of the vaccinated were getting infected. And at that point, I believe the CDC came out with an article about that as well.
Okay, thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, any comments? Hearing none. Okay, thank you, Mick, for that report and for being here with us today.
You're welcome.
Now, the next one, discussion of mental health programs.
Yes,
Nick
yeah.
would be involved with that too, right?
Yes. Do you have something you want to talk about?
No,
Okay.
that's on the agenda because,
Discussion of mental health programs, we're going to keep on the agenda because we know we're going to be talking about mental health consistently. We just haven't had a topic real at this particular point that we want to stress. However, if we look at the strategic plan, yeah, there are items in there that will give us an opportunity to be more prepared to speak about our advancements in that discussion throughout the systems in this particular agenda item.
Gavin, I do have a question for you. Or it's really a comment. I presume you're suffering the same problem with recruiting mental health people that our local hospitals are facing?
We've well, it's been recruitment has been a challenge all over the place, not just within mental health. It's been nationally since the pandemic occurred, as you guys all know. But we're doing pretty well in terms of maintaining and retaining our staff that we currently have, and then picking up new staff through our recruitment process. We are hoping to continue to fill our positions and improve on our recruitment. For our clinical psychologists, we're actually coming to the point where we're looking at the new postdoc recruitment group that'll be finishing with internship, and in support of our expansion of our suicide prevention program, where we're trying to provide 7-day-a-week coverage at our facilities. The good news is we've had 5 clinical psychology interns who will be turning into postdocs that are interested in 6 of our positions so far.
Terrific.
And we just started recruitment on this. One of them was a practicum student through a partnership with Chaminade University. And she went to one of the BOP sites in the mainland. She'll be coming back to join us. We've got a couple of clinical psychology AP accredited interns over at OCCC right now who will be staying with us, which is fantastic. And that's a great investment through that WICHE program for our students. And we also have someone interested in returning to the Big Island that we're looking at picking up.
Well, that's very good news. Thank you. Someone just put in a comment whether the correctional system is looking for social workers. I would not be at all surprised if that is a continuous recruitment, which means if you go to the Department of Human Resource Development for the state, that most likely there are social work positions open in the correctional facilities and they could apply through that. I think the need is so great, they never close the recruitment. They just keep it open, hoping people will apply.
Absolutely, and please, if you're a social worker or you know someone who's a social worker, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you, Gavin. If no more further question, we'll move ahead to the next agenda item on public comments. And once again, to those of you who are in attendance, if I can see a hand or virtual hand, I'll start with Noriko, are you raising your hand or is that the computer?
Oh, it's the computer.
Oh, is that the computer? Okay. We're open for testimony. Anyone?
Mark, this is Bob.
Hey, go ahead, Bob.
A couple of comments. The first and most important is I was really shocked to see that slide that said we will support a new jail if. The first thing I would expect to see under that heading would be if it facilitates the transition to a rehabilitative and therapeutic model. That is the most important thing. That is your reason for being. And the new jail, as presently planned, does not in any way resemble a therapeutic and rehabilitative model. And therefore, how can you say we'll approve this new jail if you make it smaller, if you make it cheaper? Those are not the criteria that you should be using. And I'm shocked that you would put anything like that into a slide, because the new jail, for example, doesn't have contact visits. They are not part of the planning process. And I just heard Kristen say that is so important for rehabilitation. So why would you approve of a jail that doesn't have outdoor recreation on the ground level, doesn't have natural lighting, doesn't have adequate space for psychiatric therapy, doesn't have natural light in the cells for the mentally ill? That jail has so many problems. Why would you approve of a jail just simply because it's smaller and because I can't remember all the criteria, but smaller and cheaper and whatever? You need to say right up front, it has to be therapeutic in every respect, and it has to set up people from the jail for reentering into the community where they have a continuity of care. And we're treating these people who have chronic diseases while they're in the facility, and then we insist on continuity of care when they get out. That slide, I was just shocked to see that. I think you folks maybe rushed a little bit in developing that, and I hope you will begin to address that.
Okay, I think that may, you're reading it wrong or we presented it wrong. As the commission has always taken the position that OCCC does need to be replaced, and we do not object to the location at the former animal quarantine. What we object to is the design and the capacity of the facility. So the things you brought up, Robert, are the things that we are very concerned about also, and we will continue to express our thoughts about that.
Then, that being the case, I really hope you will revise the wording of that to make it clear that the criteria for you to approve it is it must be therapeutic and rehabilitative in all respects, or something to that effect. Otherwise, I think there will be misunderstandings as to what your position is with regard to this new jail. Thank you.
I think you have to realize that we're also going to go in there at testimony.
Yeah,
Our testimony will be a little bit more specific. One of the things, there's going to be a lot of education going on in the legislature, Bob. A lot of new legislators.
And you're going to be there with us.
You bet I'll be there with you.
So-
But I just took that slide at face value, as I think many people will. And it is very declarative that we will approve it if, and then A, B, C, D. And as I said, I can't remember the last two. It went too fast. But I hope you will say that the main criteria is it's got to be therapeutic. And I just want to add that it has to really have community input in order to be therapeutic, and you need to incorporate the views of the community, as we've talked about. And as Ted raised that issue with the, with the department because of this, what was at least an attempt to bring in the School of Architecture. But we also need a facility that is therapeutic and will take care of the health of the people who have to work there. That's just as important. And it should be one of the criteria that we're looking at, because we can't design it and just ignore the needs of the guards. The guards are the biggest stakeholders in the whole thing, and they have had no say whatsoever in the design of this new jail. And what a crime it would be to build a jail without talking to the people who are going to have to work there for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. If it's an unhealthy environment for the inmates, it'll be unhealthy for the guards. And we just can't afford to do that. So excuse my, being excited about this, but when I saw that, I kind of flipped out and I thought, no, that really needs to be clarified. So I appreciate the opportunity to vent a little bit here. Thank you.
Also, next week, we will be having an electronic meeting, which will be public, concerning the legislative items that we're going to be testifying or considering, first of all, and then those that we select to testify on. So that will be discussed. We ask that any of you who are aware of bills that are being introduced to the legislature that would affect our correctional system, please forward the bill numbers to Kristen so that we can start looking at them, because we're going to be reviewing bills throughout the week for this discussion that we're going to have next week.
Okay. Anyone else? Carrie Ann?
Yes, aloha, Commissioners. Carrie Ann Chirota on behalf of the ACLU of Hawaii. Thank you, Bob, for sharing that concerns. We had the same concern as well, and so we're glad that we clarified it. We just want to again emphasize and highlight the focus we believe from the Commission should be on decarceration, proven decarceration strategies that can significantly reduce population across the jail and prison population and can return our people home. It's been done in other jurisdictions, decreasing their population between 10,000 and 40,000 people in a matter of 6 to 11 years. And if we continue to focus on what works, we can decarcerate it. We don't need to build more jails and prisons. The second point we'd like to highlight is compassionate release. It's tragic and just incredibly sad to hear that an 89-year-old who was medically frail and had medical conditions died from COVID. If we had a robust compassionate release system, he could have been released. It sounds like the different stakeholders did agree to his release, but I'm concerned and troubled to hear that Leahi, which is a facility run by the Hawaii State Corporation's health system, did not accept him. And so I'm wondering if the Commission would consider at some point in time writing perhaps to the governor or to the head of the Hawaii State system's health system and inquiring if this was an individual determination based upon someone's offense. Is this a policy or practice that's being implemented? Because all people deserve to have health care. And I'm assuming that this person had one or more disabilities, and there could be a possible violation of state and federal law by not accepting someone who likely has a disability based upon a conviction which could have happened years ago. I don't know the details of this individual circumstance, but again, having a robust, compassionate release policy, and second, ensuring that our healthcare facilities accepts people in their time of need. The third point I'd like to highlight is that this correctional system body is a system. I've heard mentioned a few times over the last few years the importance of bringing in judiciary, paroling authority, probation. I have yet to see necessarily stakeholders from these entities at these meetings, and that might be a good idea to bring people at different points in time and to provide updates as to what strategies they have been employing to help to reduce our severe overcrowding in our jails and prisons. For example, while HCR 85 task force came up with numerous recommendations, there was a pretrial task force that also issued a report. There are 20 plus recommendations, and I think it would be imperative for the community and for the commission to hear how many of those 20 plus recommendations have been implemented. And if they've not been implemented, what is the holdup? What are the barriers, and what can we do collectively to implement these recommendations rather than having recommendations collect dust year after year? And that would also involve police. During the pandemic, there was a decrease in the admissions to our jails, and that was done in part because the police played their role in issuing citations instead of arrests. That is a practice can continue outside of a pandemic. And so I believe that they are stakeholders, and to have their buy-in and recognizing the severe overcrowding, and that people can be in the community and they do not need to be detained. Third point relating to that is that I often hear this repeated, that the Department of Public Safety has no say as to who comes through their doors, that it is solely the judiciary's responsibility. And while the judiciary does have ultimate authority, which is why we need significant pretrial reforms, I believe that the Public Safety Department, through their intake office, does play a role in decision-making. My understanding is that they have the instrument, the ORIS-PAT instrument, that's used to make recommendations to the court, whether someone is deemed high risk, moderate risk, low risk of flight, danger, etc., and that the judiciary may rely upon that. There have been concerns over the years whether that instrument is validated. Second, if that is the best tool to truly assess risk. And so I think that the recommendations that are coming out from the intake center there could be more high risk determinations made, which in turn the court will rely upon and then detain people who could be safely placed in our community. And just last, again, I just want to reiterate, thanks. The comments from people in the community. It is so refreshing to have you on board, Kristen, as the coordinator, and to all of the commission. You've managed to do in the last few months, in the last 3 years, significant work, and it just truly reflects all of your commitment. And the ACLU of Hawaii really, truly supports what you do. And we want us to continue to support and work collaboratively to achieve all of these goals for a rehabilitative system. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Appreciate it.
I think Carrie Ann brought up a very important point about the Intake Service Center, which is part of PSD. We need to be spending some more time focusing on their role. And the issue about whether an instrument is validated, there's really 2 steps in seeing whether an instrument is using appropriate. Validation is saying, is the instrument measuring what it's supposed to be measuring, and does it measure effectively? But you also have to do reliability, because you can have a validated instrument, but the people are not applying it appropriately. So any review of that should be a 2-step. It should be validation. If it is valid, then how reliable is our use of that instrument?
And once again, if you really take a read through the strategic plan and the strategic priorities, the oversight, the rehabilitation, the population limits, and the reentry, some of that, or if not much of it, was taken out of those recommendations from HR or HCR 85, I believe it was, and the task force. But as we began to move in the directions of these 4 areas, there's going to be those people that you just talked about that we will be bringing into those conversations, so that they can become more intimately involved with the commission and our strategies as we move forward. So thank you, Carrie Ann. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else that we can would like to have some testimony here or online? George, you see any hands? I don't. Okay. All right. we're gonna have an interesting year in terms of meetings.
An interesting legislative session.
And an interesting legislative session. But to begin, I just wanna, we do have a meeting that's scheduled for Thursday, February 16th, okay? That's our next official commission meeting. And what's unique about it is we will be meeting on the neighbor islands for the, right?
No, not yet.
Not yet,
No.
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you want me to-
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mark. Okay, so
Oh,
a while
did I
back,
prove it?
Martha had brought up the idea of commissioners touring facilities after each commission meeting, including obviously on the neighbor islands, and so hosting those meetings on the neighbor islands to allow in-person participation. Always, of course, having that virtual option available for anybody who would be interested. So great news. We have been approved. The commission has been approved to tour the facilities all together as a group, which is a really, really big deal, so that they can experience it together.
And
talk
this is from
about-
the Office of Information Practices, which
Yes.
were causing us problems, saying that we had to film them, we had to record them, and anything that include all of us. And
Yeah.
Kristen has successfully overcome that.
One day. Yeah, so that's great news. So what'll happen? So what we're looking at doing is really setting the schedule, because what happened was we got the approval, I think it was last week, for the commission to tour OCCC today. It was just too short of notice for all the commissioners. I totally get it. But what I'd like to do, if the commission agrees, if we can finalize the schedule and just shift everything back 1 month, so we do OCCC next month, and then, you know, from there, all the rest. The schedule is on the website. You can check it out, but we would be looking at doing all of the jails first, taking a brief break, and then doing all the prisons. So if the commission is okay with that, I would like to finalize the dates and traveling to Neighbor Island, if everybody is in agreement, and also, what was the other thing? Oh, whether or not commissioners would like to tour the facility before or after the commission meeting.
I would prefer to tour after our meeting. And first of all, that will help us limit when we have to end the meeting. And because I'm afraid if we tour before, we may go overtime and we may push into the meeting time. So I'd rather have the meeting first and then the tour, and then the following meeting, we can report on the tour. That's my opinion.
I want to be able to go to those neighbor islands and have the neighbor islands be able to have access to us. They do have access to us to Zoom, but it may be a little bit more personal if we're there.
Mhm.
And they may show up in person and give us our concerns, so that when we go in afterwards, we can see their concerns or discuss it.
But I really don't want to rush through a tour because we're trying to get to the university
Right,
campus on that island to have our meeting, and
Right.
therefore we don't see everything. I'd rather have the luxury of time at the end.
right. So if all commissioners are okay with that and in agreement, then we can do the commission meeting first, in person and also hybrid. George has done a great job at contacting, I think, University of Hawaii on the neighbor islands to make sure that we have proper meeting space. So of course, we'll keep you updated on that, but are all the commissioners?
So I'm going to move that the proposed meeting schedule and tour schedule that presented by Kristen today, that we move each one of those facilities back by 1 month, and that will become our official schedule for the coming year. So that's my motion.
Second, was that a second, Ron?
I thought you seconded. I said second.
Okay, second.
So moved and
Is
second.
it moved and seconded that we follow the schedule as posted? Okay, there is a schedule that will be updated on the website, okay? February 16th, instead of the Big Island, will be Oahu,
Yes,
Oahu Community Correctional Center.
And we have not done the voting yet.
Yeah, no, so I'm just saying, so we're moving this, the schedule that's currently posted
right.
a month ahead.
And we'll edit the schedule.
We'll edit the schedule. So, any questions? Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
All opposed, say same. Okay, motion passed.
Great.
So that, like in everything else, ladies and gentlemen, you will know a week ahead our agenda and our schedule as we move through the islands. I'm also want to remind you folks that January 19th, no, it's today.
No, next week is.
January 20,
What's the date of next week's meeting?
January
Seven?
26th at
Yeah,
26
26.
at 2:00 p.m. We'll have a special meeting to discuss all bills relating to public safety. And
And that one's online only.
and it's online only. Yeah. And that will be coming out soon.
Has it been posted yet?
It will be today.
Yeah,
Okay,
at the
it'll be
today.
posted today. So you get the agenda today.
I got you.
Thank you for all of
Okay.
you that have been helping the commission and looking at and reviewing and helping us gather all the bills that are being presented in regards to public safety. So that was a long, nice meeting, very informative, but we want to let you know we're prepared and we're excited about 2023. Thank you, Kristen and George, for all your hard work at this point. And I would love to tell you that it's going to get easier, but it's not. Thank you for the staff. Thank you all for being here, Ted and Mike. We'll see you next week. Aloha, everybody. Thank you.